Hello and welcome to this webinar presented by the Lithius Group. I am your host today, Ben Bomar, President and Founder of Lithius Group. Today's a working session. We're going to be focused on learning techniques and the why behind building a knowledge retention roadmap. So if you're at your desk, whether you're live, I'm glad that you're here, or if you're watching on demand, grab a Post-it note, a pen, clear out a little bit of space, and we will get started. As we're going, I guess I should say, leave questions in the chat. I will get to them at the end of the event. It is always nice to know who's watching along live. So if you have a moment and can enter your name and let us know where you're watching from, I'd appreciate it. But let's get started. For those of you that are here, how do you know you're in the right place, right? What is on your plan for 2025? You know, it might be that you have an aggressive plan that you're a little uneasy about. Maybe how are you going to achieve it? Wonderful, right place. Maybe it's the fact that you've been around the block enough to know that there are going to be challenges inside your organization and from outside that are going to make it difficult for you to achieve that aggressive plan. Maybe you're a leader who recognizes the value of your team and how much they are going to contribute to the success that you eventually achieve. Or back to that being around the block, maybe you just know that there are surprises in store for you this year that you will need to be ready for, even if you can't articulate what they are. Well, in the next 25 minutes, as I said, we're going to learn by doing and build a roadmap for how you can approach knowledge retention that's going to help you achieve that plan, weather these storms, and really improve the functioning of the team. And I'm pleased to see who's attending and registered for today's event, because it tells me that this resonates with the type of, frankly, leadership, which is where I really hope that these messages sink in, right? When we start connecting the wisdom and the abilities of our teams to the objectives with some of the highest level leaders in our organization, then those are organizations that demonstrate better employee engagement, they achieve their results, and they do so in a celebratory way. And so today we are going to walk through this agenda. First off, we're going to look at institutional knowledge and define that concept. Then we're going to outline some goals as a working part. You're not going to share them with me, but you're going to get them down on paper. Things that you might want to focus on in terms of objectives or performance. You'll then brainstorm some people that are on your team, the people we call key people, and we'll define that later. And then we'll also brainstorm some best practices. What are those activities that you wish could be replicated and better known? And then lastly, you'll get a chance to sit back and look at your high-level roadmap. So you're going to be in a great spot to take action moving forward. And who am I leading all this today? I'm Ben Bomar, as I said, president and founder of Lithius Group. I founded Lithius back in 2021 because I wanted to reduce the business disruption that happened when key employees transition, right? I had lived that in my experience, and I just knew there had to be a better way. At the time, it was COVID, right? And then there was the Great Resignation. But ultimately, there just had to be a better way. And so today, Lithius Group improves succession planning, employee development, and operational performance by celebrating the institutional knowledge of key people and amplifying team best practices. That's who we are, and that's what we do. And this baton metaphor is one of two that are really important to us. But this concept of institutional knowledge, what is it? Well, it is incredibly valuable, right? It is the critical process skills. It's the learned experience, and it's the supportive networks that help make an individual successful. And it's vital because it's at the core of what those people, your clients, your customers, your colleagues, have come to expect. It's how your team works most efficiency, right? Everyone understands the institutional knowledge of the rules of the road within your organization. And for those leaders that are paying attention, it's what gives you the confidence to know that your team is going to resolve the issues and overcome the challenges in a way that is consistent with your values and with your mission and vision for your organization. We use this image, this is a second metaphor, this image of kintsugi, this Japanese art of repairing broken pottery with gold, as a metaphor for this institutional knowledge. Standard operating procedures are great, and we're going to talk about documenting some of them. But when it comes to institutional knowledge, oftentimes the real value is in how your team responded to a challenge when things were broken, when things weren't right, and they put it back together in order to meet that client demand, in order to support colleagues, in order to face that challenge. That is what we really value, and that's what you want to capture. So with that in mind, let's look at what we're going to do today. And I'll remind you, this is a working session. And for those of you, and we know that most people watch on demand, so please feel free to pause at any time. Grab a pen and Post-its. You're going to take some time to consider your people and the ways of working. And I want you to apply, if you don't already have it, I want you to apply a bias for action. How can we get started in your thinking? And that includes, in some cases, thinking small, right? Small changes add up over time, particularly when we get into the best practices area. Not everything needs to be transformative in and of itself for there to be value. So for 2025, think about your goals next year, or this year, I guess. In terms of performance, are there targets that you are looking to hit, right? Numerical. Are there X million dollars in growth? Are you looking for Y improvement in return on sales? Is there a certain reduction in customer churn that you need to address? Maybe 0 injuries is the goal this year, just as it was last year, and you have work to do. Those are performance objectives. There's some metrics. On the other side, there are these objectives that might be, if performance is about getting A's and B's, then objectives might be pass fail. You do or you do not. So maybe you're going to host quarterly listening sessions or launch 2 new products into the market, implement SAP, or hire 25 new sales reps. Don't know what that might be. For the purposes of today's conversation, I hope that you'll get these down on your Post-it notes. Jot down a few, but we'll use these as an example. So this organization is going to launch new products. It's going to improve employee engagement, navigate a couple of key retirements, and train a new customer service rep team. That's on the docket for 2025 for this organization that I'll use as an example. And in order to achieve that, we're going to start by identifying some key people, right? So who comes to mind for you? As you think about the goals that you have for your organization, who has the institutional knowledge? They have seen a lot, and they have the wisdom, and they have the know-how, and they have your trust. Who has that institutional knowledge that's required for you to achieve your goals? So jot those down, maybe on 4 different Post-it notes for now. And we're going to use these names. They actually represent folks that we've worked with in the past from all different companies. But we're going to call them Brian and Meredith and Bob and Zara. Now, when I said earlier, institutional knowledge, who is it that you need, right? Oftentimes names come to mind, people come to mind, the kind of people you pray don't win the lottery because you don't know how you'd survive without them. But can we describe what they know and what they bring to the table differently? And the answer is yes. And we recommend that you take this knowing, doing, being approach to dig deeper and get more clarity about the specific things that you value about the people in your organization. So take a moment and think about these 4 people. And by the way, if one of those 4 is you, that's perfectly okay. We see that in a lot of organizations, that senior leaders are that linchpin. What makes those people so valuable? Is it their deep understanding of your industry and the context and the domain in which you operate? Is it their ability to execute the processes that matter most flawlessly? Or is it some unique essence that they bring to the party, right? They just add something to the team when they're there. When you are able to articulate knowing, doing, and being, you're going beyond just being able to say, I would miss X person. And you're able to say specifically what it is that you value about them and why. So on your Post-it notes, you've got those 4 names. Could you describe one piece of knowledge that you appreciate about them? One area of expertise that they have? Is there a skill or an activity they are lights out at executing? Is there something that they bring to the team that contributes to the culture, to the values, to the success and the mood, right? While you're coming up with your ideas, I'm going to walk through a couple that we have seen from the folks that we've worked with. So Brian had an encyclopedic knowledge of government contracts. He understood the processes and the systems, knew how to apply for a lot of governmental work, and was a key leader at a satellite office. So sort of a culture bearer at a new location. Meredith, on the other hand, a longtime employee, just knew the history of all the different benefits packages that had been rolled out for employees over the years. She had a particular skill, and this was talked about. She knew if someone who was a part of their benefits program passed away, that was such an emotional and tactically sensitive time, and she just knew what to do. And that provided calm confidence. People appreciated when Meredith was a part of the solution. Bob had been around for 48 years. He knew everything, and particularly around how to accrue for liability within a particular product line. And there were some quirky subject matter experts that were on his team, and he had a really good sense of how to handle their quirks and manage them effectively. Zara, on the other hand, was over on the engineering side and knew how to work with Asia Pacific regulators and make sure that approvals were taken care of. So that would facilitate the creation of new products and launch of new products into new product ID. Creation was one of her areas of expertise. And then she just, because of that, understanding internal and external folks, cross-functional coordination was something that she just brought a level of confidence and professionalism to that process. So these were the four people that we talked about. You've got your notes now. Question for you. What are the future prospects of the key people that you've identified? Right? Maybe there's a promotion or a lateral move, retirement, or do you fear that resignation is out there? And you can start to assign a value to how imminent a transition might be. And we use a 1 to 9 scale. So looking at your Post-its, if someone is, hey, a year from now, they're probably going to be in the exact same place. Wonderful. Status quo, score that a 1. If they're looking at some kind of promotion, they'll still be within your organization, but they might be doing something different. Give that a 3. If they're planning on retiring and you've got a good sense of that, and we know that there are lots of folks that are entering retirement age these days, give that a 6. And if resignation is likely, or you fear it, or maybe you've already received it, that would be a 9. So in this scenario, Brian is probably looking at a promotion soon. Meredith and Bob have sort of indicated that they're planning on retiring. And Zara, she's happy as a clam. She's quite secure. She's great. Use that information to plot on this important and urgent matrix. It's called the Eisenhower matrix. Stephen Covey popularized it as well. Lay out your people, right? So how important is what they know? That's your left to right. And then how urgently might you need someone else to learn their skills? And that's your y-axis. And so, again, here we have Meredith and Bob who are looking at transitioning or retiring. And so they're a little higher up on the chart. But in terms of what's most important to the organization, what Brian and Meredith know is vital to success. When you find this scenario, those things where you have some time, so Zara and Brian, you've got time to make a plan to transfer their knowledge, but you are in a take action now stage for Bob and Meredith and whoever's on your chart, right? If you can foresee imminent transitions and what they know and their institutional knowledge, if it's highly valuable, you need to take action now. So that would be working through key people. The other piece that we talk about is best practices. And this idea of this ladder that's taller than the others, right? It's just these people have a leg up on their peers. They know how to do something that enables them to produce differently and better than others. And key people is different than best practices, right? Key people, these are folks who know a lot about a lot. And they have deep institutional knowledge in all the K and the D and the B. Now, often they will represent in many organizations a single point of failure. They're the only person who knows how to do many of the things that they are capable of. Over on the best practices side, these are skills, specifically skills or specific sets of wisdom that are held by subject matter experts. Sometimes those people are also key people. And they've been developed via experience over time. Sometimes it is a single point of failure risk. There might be a person who they're the only person who knows how to work the old software or the old machinery. But oftentimes best practices, the tasks that require those best practices are shared by others, or the objectives that require that wisdom are shared by others. And one nice tell that you found a best practice and you found a person who owns and holds a best practice is if you ever hear that phrase, it's just faster if I do it myself, right? I could train somebody else. I'm just going to be faster at it. That is an immediate red flag that you have achieved and found a best practice that you would benefit from making available to others on your team. Here at Lithius Group, we look at 4 types of best practice. So I want to encourage you to be thinking in this area. The first are tasks, right? They're often step-by-step procedures. In our increasingly hybrid and digital environment, they're often on screen, right? There are some checklists and some walkthroughs that happen physically, but generally tasks, there are best practices at how to execute tasks. There are also processes. Processes might not be something that you could just bang out in an afternoon, but instead it might be someone who understands, I think I mentioned earlier, an application process or the delays that happen between phases. So it's something that's larger, still step by step, but it's larger than a task and may take more time. Personas can also be a best practice, right? Understanding how to support and service a key client, how to work with another internal function, an understanding of the history and the ways of working with a persona are key. And a slight variation on that is context. That could be the history of your company, the mythology of how it came to be, the founding. Or it might be your industry and welcoming new people into your industry as a part of your team and teaching them how things work within your area of activity. So those are what we would say is 4 types of best practice. Now, how could you go further with that? Think about what are items that you wish people could do for themselves? What's tricky but needs to be done correctly? So take a look at these questions and the others that are up here and jot down some ideas that come to mind from across your team, right? We've moved away from those key people and now we're just thinking across the team. This is the time to think small. I said earlier that was important. This is okay. Pick out the little things that you have to repeat yourself to do. That's really important to understand. That take time, that you wish you didn't have to share so often, so repeatedly, so in such an analog way. So you keep thinking and capturing your ideas on your paper. I'm going to share a few past examples for us. So tasks, entering orders, reviewing contracts and looking for specific language, password resets, right? That's a classic. Processes, on the other hand, maybe learning how to execute and build a budget within your organization has been a bit of a mystery for some people, and you have new leaders that are joining. Maybe managing the sales pipeline and really getting dialed in on what these definitions mean. That's a process that would matter. Personas, right? Working with clients like McDonald's or Coca-Cola or your channel partners or key donors or funders within the nonprofit space. These are all, understanding how to support these folks is key. And as I said, it aligns and walks into this idea of context. So maybe the founder's journey, how your organization came to be. What is your George Washington and a cherry tree moment that teaches something about the values within your team? If you're in an EOS shop, right, maybe the values of the vision and communicating that consistently is something that you would like to have more people be in the know about. Or maybe there's some major event like what it was like during COVID and how that changed your organization. So any and all of these are best practices, bits of wisdom, abilities that capturing best practices would help your organization. So what have you built? Well, you've got a roadmap for 2025. And so in our scenario, you can focus on one key person per quarter, prioritized based on what they know and the imminence and the urgency of needing to capture it. Celebrate them. This is not done in a vacuum. Celebrate them for what they offer your team. And so if you can focus on one key person per quarter and one monthly documentation project for a best practice each month, you have a clear roadmap for your goals, right? Here we've prioritized Meredith and Bob, and then Brian, and then Zara based on what we know. And we've looked at some key tasks, key bits of information and best practice that matter a lot. And so what's that going to help us do? Well, we've captured both in the key persons. We're done with this by the end of the year, we will have captured the information that will help us launch new products, that will help us engage better and differently with our employees, that will navigate those key retirements that we know are happening, and will allow us to scale by creating scalable training resources. And you've built that plan today in something like 20 minutes. Now, you got to execute. That's where the bias for action comes in, but it is really going to be effective. And so that's going to lead you, if you can execute on that plan, put that time in, one thing a quarter, one thing a month, then you're going to be celebrating and appreciating the people and the wisdom within your organization. You will be creating materials that empower the team to achieve their goals, which I hope ladder up to yours. There will be the beginnings of a playbook to respond to the surprises that you anticipate, the challenges that you anticipate, and that will free up your mental load to be ready for those surprises. So all of that is possible with consistent, steady focus on institutional knowledge within your organization. And I want to tell you that we know it's possible, and I'm confident that you will get the benefit from this because we have seen it make a difference with our clients at Lithius Group, right? We have worked and planned for the retirement of that chief benefits officer, a statewide organization who just knew lights out how to handle vendors, how to run annual fairs, benefits fairs, and how to plan those retirement or take action for those death transitions that were so critical that I mentioned earlier. We've also helped teams document best practices so that they can be more consistent and improve their client intake, the data collection that their client teams do, and then recruit new people to join the team. And lastly, we've been a part of transitions of ownership where we've gone in, and this same approach of appreciating the key people within a team allows for the documentation that creates that playbook that a potential acquirer sees that institutional knowledge is going to remain with the business and not just leave when that founder departs. And that ultimately increases the value of the organization and the ability to, have some quality, sustainable revenue. So I know that you can do it. And we've had broad experience in our success. And so we've seen it support manufacturing and services and healthcare and insurance, any place, and also service and impact, right? Any place where there is a good mix of that context that's necessary, as well as the importance of process and consistency. That is really where we have found it to be most helpful. And honestly, that based on what I know about the people who registered for this event, that probably applies to your organization. If and when you would like to learn more about it, I want to share with you a little bit about our products. One is we have our key person programs. Again, they are individual based. They are focused on those people who have a breadth of wisdom and impact on the organization. And through a series of facilitated interviews, we create that custom content that goes into succession plans and development plans and onboarding for others, right? We break apart and make accessible what those key people know in a way that celebrates them. On the other hand, our best practice programs, they are highly focused on that knowledge and process and execution, and they recognize that subject matter expertise, those people who know how to do something extremely well. And so we use a lighter touch, a different touch with custom surveys and facilitated interviews to create that library of best practices over time that help with onboarding, development plans, and performance coaching. You can execute what I've talked about today for yourself. If you would like help, if you would like to have a more robust roadmap, I encourage you to schedule a survey session with us. It's free, it's no obligation. We take an hour and we build out a robust framework for what is possible within your organization. We apply the Lithius Stone technique of survey, target, operationalize, nurture, and embed to make recommendations. And that roadmap is yours however you choose to proceed. If you're not ready for that, fine, no worries. If you liked this, but you'd like to provide have a guide for yourself, or maybe a guide to share within your organization, email us. We have our key person risk worksheet, and it walks you step by step in 2 pages, essentially how to do a lot of what we've talked about today without the 30-minute webinar. Share it with the leaders on your team. And then as you see that, if that sparks ideas, you want to know how you could execute that, maybe schedule that survey session or reach out to us. So with that, we're coming in right on time. I'm going to put this back up there for anyone who might like to schedule one of those survey sessions. But otherwise, I want to say thank you for attending or watching on demand. You have wisdom within your team that is going to help you succeed this year. Those people who possess that wisdom deserve to be celebrated and appreciated. And you, as a leader within your organization, owe it to your goals and owe it to whoever you're working with to have a plan to make sure that you have resilience and a preservation of that institutional knowledge so that you can achieve the things that you need to achieve. So with that, thank you again. I'm going to pause and then see if there are any questions in the chat.